Computer, there we go.
Got it.
There you go.
Okay. And then let me share my screen. And okay, now everyone can see that?
No, not yet.
No.
No? Oh, because I
No,
didn't hit
we
share.
just see each other.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, there it
There we
goes.
go.
There we go.
Ta-da.
Got it.
Okay. So I'm calling this presentation, is AI the great equalizer, or is it the end of photography as we know it? And you'll see what I mean later on about the great equalizer. But in general, what it means is that people like John and I and some others who have really good Photoshop skills, we worked for years and years to develop them, can now be done within just a minute by anybody who has Photoshop and who can use a computer. And I'm sure there are tons of other programs that do exactly the same thing here. So first, this is not going to be a how-to video. I'm not trying to tell you how to do AI. I'm trying to show you what AI can do so that we can have an informed discussion about where we want to proceed with the club, what we should allow and what we shouldn't allow. For my mind, AI is the biggest change in photo editing since layers. Layers was a huge difference for me. When I learned what layers would do, it just changed my whole photography skills. In fact, about 3 years ago, I gave a talk, I think called Simply Using Photoshop Layers, where I actually took a square and a circle and a rectangle and moved them between different layers so that you could see kind of how all this worked. Some people got it, some people were interested, some really didn't. Like John said earlier, AI has been around for years, since the 40s and the 50s. In the 50s, a guy designed a program that would mimic human problem-solving skills, and it could prove mathematical theorems. Another guy did some intelligent behavior indistinguishable from that of humans. What was really holding everybody back, and here is Kevin, what was holding everybody back was the fact that we just didn't have the computing power, right? And now we do. So one of the biggest questions I get is,
That's Robert. Is he
back in?
His computer. Yeah, so you'll need to let him in.
Okay.
Oh, that's Kevin, it looks like. Great.
Yeah, Kevin's here. So
Kevin's
Yeah,
here.
Robert dropped too because he's having trouble with his computer. He sent me a text, so he'll hear from
okay.
him too.
So if
Sorry.
he,
Ironically, speaking of computing power, yeah. Now we have computer power, we just can't get it to work.
so anyway, one of the biggest questions that I get is, does Adobe copy your images? Does it steal your images without your consent and use them to create AI images? I can't speak to Midjourney and all the others that do it, but I can tell you that Adobe does not. Adobe uses their stock images, which they have millions of, to figure out the best change that it could make with what you're asking it to do. In other words, if you ask it to make a chipmunk, it doesn't go out and look for a photo of a chipmunk and just copy that image. It blends it into the background and it gives you a totally unique chipmunk that never existed before, using AI to kind of search through all the images. So AI really is the great equalizer. You'll see just how easy this is. I'm not going to do anything really difficult, and really the learning curve is not very high. One thing I don't think that AI will replace anytime soon is reality-based photography, like wedding and architecture and things that have to be done immediately. So the Photoshop in 2010 introduced a thing called content aware, which let you expand your images, and it would AI fill in the sides. Frankly, it worked okay, but it was never really, really great. This next big step over here is what they call neural filters. You might or might not know that they're in Photoshop, but here's an image shot in the 1950s. By the way, that's me in the middle, that nerdy little kid there. And that's my
That looks
brother.
like you.
Yeah, that's my brother to the left and my cousins to the right. Shot on film, totally black and white. Neural filters look like this. They do a whole variety of things, but one of the things that they can do is color a photo that has never had color put to it. So you just basically click on the little thing that says colorize, and this is what it comes up with. Right.
Wow.
Now, in the old days, you know, I've colored photographs with pencils. I've used watercolors on them. I've used tablets to color in all the different things. I could never do anything that was this good, and that literally happened instantly. So, so as I said, I'm not an expert at Photoshop or AI. I'm just a, you know, just a guy like the rest of you. I do have an interest in it. So I'm going to just show you some of the capabilities. We have already been allowing AI in our competitions really since the beginning. You know, you shoot a picture in RAW, and then you bring it into your editing program and you hit autocorrect. Well, that really is a form of AI. It's really telling you, this is how I think your photograph should look. This is how sharp it should be. This is how the colors should be. This is how the saturation should be in the photograph. You know, best example is your phone. You know, we're always amazed what great pictures these cell phones take because of the AI technology. So I don't think anybody would say we shouldn't allow iPhone photography in our competitions. So that's kind of a, you know, a part that we need to discuss. So let's see, let's get into it. Here was one of the first images I did. This is an image I took in Big Bend. And some of you might know my wife is a watercolorist. And she said to me, I really love this picture, but I would like it to be as a landscape. And I have other pictures that were landscapes, but she just didn't really like it. So let's just take it into Photoshop. Hopefully Photoshop will load. And yeah, there we go. So I'm just going to hit the crop tool, and I'm just going to stretch out the image like that. And I'm going to stretch it out like that. And this little contextual bar that's on the bottom is in Photoshop. And it's basically the thing that generates the AI thing. And you just hit generate, and hopefully it won't lock up my computer and end the presentation. But I don't think it will. So, and this happens fairly quickly. You can see the little bar there. It's
Well,
generating.
you're doing a lot, so it's going to take a while.
Yeah, I've got a lot of things open. So,
Yeah,
so here it
yeah.
is. Okay.
Wow.
So it gives you 3 samples of what it thinks. Here's the first one. And here's the second one. And here's the third one. Let's say I like the first one here. This is what I gave it. This is what it came up with. Okay. I think what it does is it goes out and looks at the thousands and thousands of pictures that are of Big Bend, and it comes up with what it thinks is the best solution to expanding this photograph. But it's seamless. I mean, look at that photograph. So one of the questions would be, is this allowed? Well, according to our definitions, it is allowed to be able to do, right? So I'm not going to save it because I already have it in Lightroom right here. Another example of it, one that I like. Look in the right-hand side, it kind of got the little windmill or something up on the hill. I have no idea why it did that. But It's a great looking image, right? And it took me like 2 seconds. Now, I could have used content aware and expanded it. Doesn't really work that well. I could have taken one of my other photographs, that's a landscape photograph, and using my skills, I could have pasted it on each side of this photograph and came up with something that was pretty good, but certainly not as quick and as easy as this one. Here's an image that some of you might remember. I won first place for this image in print competition. It's a building I think I took in Armenia. And after it won first place, I kind of fessed up and said, I had a little 8x10 printed of it. This is what the image is. Okay. This is what AI came up with. Basically, all I did is draw a box around the bottom and said, ground floor. Okay. So this image is totally unique. It doesn't exist anywhere in the world. This is something that it came up with. As a matter of fact, if you ask it to come up with it again, like I did on this one, this is what it comes up with. Same text
It
prompt,
does the same thing twice?
same thing. It doesn't do the same thing twice ever,
Wow.
right? You can, if you know how to use your skills, to get it to come up with something close to it. But if you just do the text prompt and do it, you'll get a different variation on it every time. Okay. Here's our rules. Basically, it says you can't take a picture of another artist's work and have it just be your solo image. You have to, if you're going to take a picture of someone, doing a mural or, painting the picture, you have to put them in the subject, and the artwork has to be a minor part of it. Also, some of you might or might not know that we let semi-nude images in, although I can't remember the last time we've had anyone that did a picture with nudity in there.
Yeah, she left.
And she left. Yeah. And of course, the big one to my mind is the thing that it says at the bottom. GSACC, competition judges, by a majority vote, shall have the discretion to disqualify any competition entry in any category if they determine the entry does not meet the minimum criteria. Images disqualified due to the wrong category may be entered at a later time. This gives total authority to the judges, where there's 3 of them, right? If 2 of them disqualify an image for any reason, it's out. We don't do that anymore because it got to be so contentious. When somebody tells you can't put your image in, people get really upset by it. So we've had a few outbursts over there. So I think we've all come to the realization, if you don't think the image fits the category for whatever reason, just give it a low score, right?
Yeah.
Here's our definition of pictorial as it stands right now. Color or black and white images taken by either digital or film cameras. The image subject matter is unrestricted, but it must always be your own work. That's an interesting line in there, and we'll see how that kind of plays out with the work. Post-processing techniques that add, relocate, combine, replace, remove pictorial elements are permitted. Normal burning, dodging, spot, scratch removal, all that is allowed. HDR, focus stacking, panoramas are permitted. Stitched images, infrared images, either direct captures or derivations are permitted. The image shall portray truth or reality. What that comes from is that we used to have a creative category. And as a way to differentiate, John might disagree with me on this, but as a way to differentiate between that, it should at least look kind of realistic. I don't know, that's a hard and fast rule. So this is a picture of my daughter's outhouse in Maine. And I took this as a grab shot with my iPhone, and I was kind of sorry I didn't take more time to fix it up. But just to show you how easy this is, let's give enough room for the peak. Let's give enough room on the end, and let's just hit generate. And we'll give it a second. Dum, 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 dum. Should have a little clock noise that goes on. So there you go. Let's see, here's the Ben Luna. I'll let him in.
Incredible.
So look at that.
That's incredible.
It's incredible, isn't it? Now,
Mhm.
I might want to clean this up. Okay, so if I just take the little lasso tool and I just take and I circle this little guy here, I'll hold down the shift key so I can select a couple things at one time. So we're not watching me do all this. And if I just clean up this, draw a little box around this, and maybe this little guy right here, I'll just draw a circle around it. I don't have to tell it anything. I just hit generate fill, generate, and we'll see what it comes up with. There they are, they're gone. Now, could I have done this using the clone tool? You know, or could I have pasted in some grass or whatever from another image? Yeah, I could have, but it would have taken me an hour to do it. So when I say it's the great equalizer, right? Anyone's able to do this fairly quickly. So should it be allowed or not? I'm not really sure. That's part of what the conversation is. I don't really need to save it because I've still got an image that I did, which is different, but similar to that one. Okay. So Robert wants to get back in.
Oh,
We'll
that's
let him
fine.
in. So here's one that's a little more complicated. Okay. This is me. I'm going to take it into Photoshop while I'm talking. This is me in, I don't even remember where the hell I was, Cambodia or something like that. And it's a nice image, but to my mind, it's, you know, I gave my camera to somebody else and they took the picture of me, and it's really lacking. Like this thing right here on the bottom here, I'd like to just get rid of that. And so I just hit generate, and whatever that thing is, might be somebody's foot or
Looks like
something.
an elephant head.
Looks like part of an elephant too, yeah.
Maybe part of another elephant.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that gets rid of very nicely. Now, you know, I wish I was just writing him all by myself. So I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to just circle this guy like this. I'm not going to do a great job. You don't want to do a great job. You want to leave some of the background in there. Again, I don't have to tell it anything. I just wanted to remove it. And it's gone. And it gives me, which I haven't said, it gives me three choices. This one, or that one. Let's say I like that one. One of the things I'd like about this image is I wish that he had a trunk sticking up out of the ground, right? So I'm going to just take the lasso tool and I'm just going to draw a trunk.
Oh, come on.
Like this in the water. And I'm going to say, if I can spell it, L-P-H-A-N-T, trunk. Okay.
Mhm.
And I'm going to generate it.
Robert's still waiting for acceptance to get in.
I'm here.
Oh,
No, he's
okay,
here.
great,
You let him in a long time ago.
okay. Sorry, I'm just getting the text.
So there's one trunk. There's another trunk. There's another one. I kind of like that one. I wish it was a little taller. So using my extensive photography skills, I'll just do Control T. I'll make it a little bit bigger.
Come on.
Right, maybe move it down here a little bit. We're a little closer like that. Notice how the background doesn't match.
Yeah.
So all I need to do is just hit done and generate.
Bullshit.
So here we go.
Peter, Peter, did you notice when you removed the person that the shadow, they put the shadow on the back and it looks more realistic?
Put the
There's a
shadow in
white-
here. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Can you
So,
imagine how long it would take you to put a shadow back?
oh, yeah, forever, right? If I could even do it right. So
Yeah,
it gave me
yeah.
3 different kinds of trunks I could put in here, right? And let's just say I kind of like that one. The other thing I might want to do is, this thing could really use a reflection. Oops, let me see. That was the wrong one. Let me go back to this little tool here. So I'm just going to draw a little thing in here. And I'm just going to say reflection.
This is like watching a magic trick.
It really is, isn't it?
And presto, changeo.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't even have to type the word reflection?
I did type the word reflection in this one.
Oh, I never saw
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
didn't
Yeah.
see it. That's what I was gonna ask.
I didn't see it
Oh,
either.
sorry about that. So here's 3 reflections. 1, 2. They're not that great, but it doesn't always come up. Is it better than? Yeah, it's a little bit of
Better than
reflection.
none.
But, yeah.
So here's what we started with, right?
Mhm.
I got rid of that thing on the bottom. I got rid of the kid. I gave him a trunk,
That's it,
and I put a nice little reflection in there.
brother.
How long did that take me?
That's unbelievable.
You're
Right.
expecting
So, all right, let's see here. What happened to my Photoshop thing here? Control. Somehow I've got this thing out coming up full screen here. File. I'll just exit this. I don't need to save this because I already have one that I did, which is a totally different image than what the other one. It's similar, right? So I don't know if we want to go through the ramifications of changing this guy, but this is one that I took at the King William show. And we can either go through it or I can just show you that in just a few strokes, I was able to do this to him. Right. Right.
Wow.
I got rid of,
For the
as a
grace
matter
of
of fact,
God,
here,
you're
we can do
yeah,
this.
yeah.
We can just put it. Right.
I'm not.
I was able to get rid of the guy, get rid of the car, get rid of the crowd in the background. I
Wow.
put a new hat on
Change
him.
his clothes.
I put a
That's
leather
amazing.
jacket. I gave him hiking boots,
Please.
right?
Wow.
Got rid of his tattoos.
I could get rid of his tattoos if I wanted to. I think I just covered him up with a leather jacket, but anyway, so I won't bore you going through to do that. Oops, let me see here. All right, so next category that we have is monochrome. Images contain shades of gray from black and white. That makes sense. Grayscale images have been toned in one color across the entire image. Any image that is multicolored or has a spot color should be classified as a color image. We've had people do this before, and we've had to eliminate them. Post-processing techniques that add, relocate, combine, replace, or remove pictorial elements are permitted. Normal burning, dodging, scratch removal, sharpening, vignetting, and cropping are allowed. HDR, focus stacking, panoramas are permitted. Stitched images, infrared images, either direct captures or derivations are permitted. Again, it says the image shall portray truth or reality. That really has to do with the fact that we had another category. So Jared, I'm embarrassed that this is my my rodeo picture, but I'm going to bring it into Photoshop. I purposely didn't want to use my best photograph in here just to
It's
see.
gonna be a
if we-
next competition, so that's why.
Well, I'll have to stagger it with Maria. We'll see what Maria decides to enter in the thing. Okay.
I love the shot.
So one of the things, I mean, I wish that the rodeo clowns weren't there. So, I mean, look at this. Let's just get rid of the rodeo clowns. Let me just do a real quick. I don't even have to be careful with how I trace this guy here. I'm going to get rid of his shadow to go up here. And then I don't have to tell it anything. I just say generate. It knows I want to erase this picture.
Is that because you didn't give it any alternative? You just left it blank?
If I leave it blank, it knows I want to erase it. And there it is, it's gone. Now it gives me three different choices. If you look at the background, you look at the fence, you could see there's a plain one and some little marks on there. I'd probably go for this one. And then I'd say the same thing, let's get rid of this guy. And we'll just chase around him. I'll get rid of
That's
his
a challenge, 'cause
shadow.
you have text back there.
And again, I'll just say generate, because I didn't give it any text prompt, it'll know that I just need to go erase it.
Okay.
There it is, gone, and I've got three choices. If you look at the background, you can see how it's changed. And a lot of times it gives you just gobbledygook, like it doesn't make any sense, the written words that it has over there. So you kind of just have to decide what you want. And then I think I would probably take this image and I would probably just crop it in like this. Now, how's that for an image?
Mhm.
It's
Right?
indistinguishable from
Yeah.
a reality. There's nothing in there that really automatically says there's
Yeah.
something wrong.
Can
Yeah.
you change that bowl to white with that tool at the bottom?
I probably can't. You know, you never know exactly what you're going to get, but let's try it. We'll just no, it won't.
It won't, because you got the
Oh,
guy
The
in
person
it.
is too
No,
wrapped
not
up.
because I got the guy in it, because in order to color the bull white, I would have to select the bull, do an exact copy of the bull, put him on another layer, and then change that white. Because you notice if I get rid of somebody, I give a loose selection around it, and then it comes up with something that's totally unique. If I want to change something and keep it the way it is and not have AI change it, I have to have an exact selection. And at this moment, it's above my pay grade. Could I do it? Yes, but I couldn't probably do it quickly in the time that we have left.
I did that in fact, I just did it for a friend of Susie's who got married, had pictures of her and her parents. And she's in her wedding dress carrying her flowers. And basically she didn't want the wedding dress to come off. So I did AI by selecting the wedding dress and making it a blue frock or blue something.
Yeah.
And then I took the bouquet that was in her hand and I turned it into roses, all with AI.
Yeah, but if you notice it, John, they're not exactly her bouquet and it's not exactly her dress.
Right.
Right.
You still have shadows and stuff like that, but if with a little touch up, you can go back and fix it.
Right.
What I ended up having to do was take the flowers and then rotate it to cover her hands because I could not get her hands correct.
Exactly. It doesn't do a great job on
No,
hands.
doesn't.
So let's see. So there's one I did earlier. I don't really even need to save it. Okay. Nature is a little more tough of a category. Okay. Here we say with our definition that it has to be taken out, a wide range of stuff, taken outdoors and devoted to displaying landscapes, wildlife, insects, birds, amphibians. The important part of this is that images of people and pets are ineligible, images of mounted specimens are ineligible, cropping, dodging, burning, scratch removal, sharpening, vignetting, techniques that add, relocate, replace, or alter the truth of the image are not permitted. Stitched images, compositions, infrared images, not permitted. Okay. So in general, anything that's a reality-based theme like nature or photojournalism that enhance the presentation of the photograph without changing the story is supposed to be okay. It's kind of a loose definition there. Stitched images, not permitted. Infrared images, not permitted. So here's an image that I took with Jack up at South Llano State Park. I really like this image. But what thing bothered me is that the nose is behind the thing. I also don't like that the eye is so out of focus.
Hmm?
So let's just take it into Photoshop. And this might or might not work. Again, it's always iffy whether these things work. And let's see, I'm just gonna make it a little larger. And then I'm just gonna draw a little thing like this and say Fox nose. Yeah, nose. Let's say nose. Sometimes it goes haywire. So yeah, like that. So all right, so that one too. So but that one's not too bad, right?
Oh, no.
I mean, it's not perfect. And if I don't like this, all I have to do is hit generate again, and it's going to come up with 3 more examples, probably 3 more ridiculous examples.
And if
but
2 of them were screwy for the first time, 2 of them will be screwy the second time.
probably. Yeah, here's another one. Here's another one. That's not too bad. And
Wow.
then, you know, using a little Photoshop skills, I could take and just kind of set the transparency on this a little bit, right? And the other one I can do is I can just do this. This is my favorite to do here. I'll just say Fox eye.
Now, I'm guessing you can save the ones that you like. Can
Yes,
you? Okay.
yes, you can. I don't usually save them because every iteration that it makes
Mhm.
is another 25 megabytes.
Okay.
So there's that, and there's that one. I'd probably pick that one. And again, I'd probably just reduce the transparency just a little bit to make it look a little more realistic.
Mhm.
And I don't like his ear. So I'm going to come in here and just do box ear. Foxear. I have to spell out loud so I don't have to use my fingers to do this. And yeah, so again, 1, 2, 3, maybe that one,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So I think obviously this shouldn't be allowed in nature, right? I mean, I'm altering the whole reality of this guy,
Right.
but it is possible. And playing with it, you know, this what I didn't even spend 2 minutes on this, and
Well, now you have to go back and fix the outline because it changed the background.
change what background?
Background, see the line behind his ear?
The
Hmm?
li-
The line.
Yeah,
You
it
have a
changed,
line
it
right there.
did, right there.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it did.
It
Yeah.
changed it to a straight line versus a limb. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's the
Well-
key thing behind all this is if you select something, make sure you select a part of the background along with whatever you want to do. Don't do a tight collection because the AI uses what you select outside what you want to change to match the color and tone of everything else.
Yeah, again, I think we're getting into the minutia of this. We
Yeah.
could all come up with something really great if we took our time doing it. And I
Let's see, I
and
like
I
that
think
better, buddy.
I think that that's part of the conversation is that yes, anybody can do this very quickly, but in the hands of somebody like you, it will be better, right? Because you understand all
Oh,
the
yeah.
workings of
Yeah.
it, right? So it will still be better, but and again, I'm not going to save this because I have it right here. There was my last one that I did, right? So, you know, I don't know what to say about it. It's a nice image. So I'm going to do one more thing, and then we can have our conversation about it. I'm just going to do a completely blank canvas, okay? And I'm going to take it. I'm going to just drag off a little box here. I'm going to select it at the top, and in the fill box, I'm going to put in stormy sky. And it's coming. Okay, so I got that one, or that one. Yeah, let's take that one. All right, now I'll draw another box right here. And I'll type in Stormy C. Did I spell it right? Yep.
Mhm.
Not my strong suit. Okay, 1, 2, 3,
2. That was good.
2. Do 2. Yeah, I'm not sure why that
I
has
like
a
the
little.
first one, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to do the first one. Okay, then I'm going to draw another little box down here, and I'm going to do Rocky Shore. Oh, I didn't write it in there. That's why it's not doing it. Rocky Shore. Yep, got it. I think this program is really good at rocks too. I like the way they turn out. So there we go. We got that one, or that one. I like the first one, huh?
First one, right there.
First one. Okay, and then I'm just going to do a couple things really quick. I'm just going to do like this, and I'm going to do yellow sailboat.
God dang it. This guy's a fucking work of art, man.
I know.
Such a fake.
Is it fake? Here, that one. I'm not going to get carried away in fixing these up. I'll just
Yeah, the
reduce.
sailboats are fake. You can tell that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I just reduced the transparency on a little bit. It'll look pretty good. And then I'm just going to come in the sky right here, and I'm going to type in a box, flock of birds. Birds. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I'll take that one. Now, I'm just going to make a copy of this one here, and I'm going to drag it over to here. See what it's done? It's actually from the circle. It's selected the whole thing. But if I just come in here and I hit generate again, it's going to create a totally unique set of birds that are not like the other ones and blend it into the background. Okay. So it's a pretty nice looking picture, isn't it?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
No.
Take out the sailboat, and I would say it was real.
Yeah.
We can take out the sailboat. So I won't bother even saving this one here, but I'll show you something here if we exit this program.
I don't know if it's shot a real photo now after this. This
Okay.
is
Here's one I did, same text prompts. Here's another one I did, exactly the same text prompts. Here's a third one I did, exactly the same text prompts.
Wow.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'd be proud to have taken any one of these pictures. So, okay, I'm almost done here. This is the last one. I'm not going to bother taking you through to show you how I did this. I basically took a blank canvas and I typed in skunk drinking coffee. And then I changed his nose red. I gave him green eyes and I put a red hat on him.
Wow.
Cute.
That's cute.
Okay.
Very cute.
This is more like what Midjourney would do. So there's the end of my presentation, or
Just the beginning.
is it the beginning? I don't really know. We'll have to decide. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here.
That was very good.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Question, Peter.
It is a very unique way of doing things. I fixed a picture for Robert probably sometime last year of a picture that he did of a guy that was sitting at a table in a restaurant. It was a great picture of the guy at the table, but you couldn't see his hands. And because it was a salt shaker and a napkin dispenser and something else in front of it, I remember I used a sort of an AI program, but it's not wasn't called AI last year. It was something else. But I took out the salt and pepper shaker, took out the napkin holder, and then it added hands to the guy, and it looked like the guy sitting there smoking a cigarette, reading his phone.
Yeah.
And I believe it actually placed in monochrome. So
So
but it's AI
Yeah.
is very interesting and very unique.
Mhm.
But like Peter says, where do you draw the line?
I don't know. And that's what we're going to find out now. I think we should go around and everybody, if you're interested in talking about it, everybody should kind of give their opinion and say, you know, maybe you knew more than I did when you started this. Maybe you knew nothing and it was an epiphany. Maybe you have an opinion one way or another, whether what should be allowed or what shouldn't be allowed. So I just think it would be interesting to have everybody have, and you don't have to talk if you don't want to.
I
But-
have a question, Peter.
What?
The AI that you used, is it part of Photoshop or was it
Yes.
an add-on?
It's part of Photoshop.
It's now part of Photoshop.
Now has its own AI.
Yes.
Yes.
It always did have its own AI.
Yeah.
For me, the
Mhm.
important part is like kind of like what John was saying. There's nothing that I did over here that I couldn't do using Photoshop. It would just take me hours
Longer.
to
Right.
do it, right? I have even that last picture, I have tons of skies. I have tons of pictures of the ocean, and I have tons of pictures of rocky shorelines. And I could combine all three of them to come up with a totally unique image. Right? So
What doing it yourself does is it adds the craft. There's no real craft, or there's much less craft, in my opinion, if you use it.
and frankly, that's one of the things I think the judges could decide, right? When they're looking at an image, if we allowed it. The judges could look at it and say it has no crust and give it a low score.
I
Now,
personally,
my question as a judge is, how do you know it was done?
Well, that's the next
And
question.
that is where it lies. The problem is
Mhm.
that with content aware fill and content aware move, we've been able to take people in and out of changing and moving them around or removing them for several years now with Photoshop.
It's
But AI does the
2010.
same thing now, but it only takes seconds versus take us minutes or hours to do.
Yeah. Well, that's where the great equalizer is.
Yeah.
Things that you spent the generation doing, everybody over here can do in minutes and better.
I think that progressiveness is part of life, being, being progressive. I think it's progressiveness, the AI. I think, what comes to my mind is I really think it's interesting. I still think it's beautiful. I completely generating an image that was not actually shot by a camera. That I don't think should not be permitted. But I think if we take an image and we use AI to refine the image, maybe if the group would accept different categories, like we have an AI category.
Yes.
And we kind of have a straight out of the camera category or something to that effect.
We
I'm
did.
not
We did already. It's called creative.
That's right.
okay.
Okay.
Well-
Creative was you could take and do whatever you wanted in creative. And
Sure.
AI would make a creative category image. Excellent. I mean, I am a fine art photographer. I do a lot of fine art work, graphic design, other kind of stuff. I use AI all the time doing that because I can add flowers and I can do all kinds of stuff and then turn it into an oil painting. And that doing it with AI in Photoshop takes half the time it used to take me. So, but it is more of a graphic thing than a photograph. And that's where my opinion is different from a lot of people is a photograph should be taken as a photograph,
Exactly.
not created. If you can take that image and create something out of it, that's art.
So let's see what everybody thinks about it.
Yeah,
Let's just
let's
start
do that.
up in the corner. Maria, do you have an opinion one way or another on this?
Marie, are you there?
Yeah, I'm just getting my
Uh-huh.
mouth wasn't moving up to unmute. Yes, I definitely have an opinion. I don't think it should be allowed in nature at all, period.
In nature.
Yeah.
What about black and white and pictorial?
Because of the way it's written, I think that it's open to discussion. My concern would be is that those that have AI skills will always do better than those that don't. And I think that at some point, people are going to stop competing if they can't compete.
Exactly.
And I don't want to see that. We've got a small enough club as it is that I wouldn't have a problem if you want to put creative back in or something to allow that. I'm not against it from that point of view. I just don't want to have people drop out because they say, I don't even place anymore.
Yeah.
That's
Good
all
point,
I'm
Maria.
worried about.
Good point, Maria.
You know,
Ernie, what do you think?
I'm looking at AI enhanced, AI created as separations.
Yeah. Yeah.
AI enhanced, in other words, you took your photograph and you did this, this, and this. Created means you had no photograph, you started with a blank slate and created your image.
Okay. Okay. Mark, do you have an opinion?
Yes. I like it. And I would be interested to see how smart it really is. So you were doing the ocean, like stormy ocean or stormy skies and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I wonder, without telling it, I wonder if it would be able to pick up like either seagulls or pelicans. You do the birds versus like birds that usually aren't even around the ocean or shore.
Well, you could tell it to put a penguin in there or,
That's what I mean, without telling it. I wonder if it would do something like that.
It does a lot of strange things. I mean, if you just leave the prompt alone, I mean, you saw like when I put the nose for the fox in there, it came up with a whole fox. It does lots of things like that. So, sometimes you have to keep generating it over and over again. But yeah, I mean, it's up to you to say stop. This is what I want. So, Donald, do you have an opinion?
I have a question more than an opinion. Where do you draw the line here?
Well,
Because we all alter, well, not all, I shouldn't speak for everybody else, but when you, like you have, one of the things you're allowed to do is get rid of scratches and stuff like that. And that's easy. But where do you draw the line about how much you can alter the photograph before you say, well, that's predominantly AI generated, it's not acceptable?
Yeah, that's a tough question, isn't it?
Oh, could we put that on the honor of the group? I mean, is that too difficult to do? Is just say, well, I know that this is pretty much a photograph that I took and I just did a few little enhancements versus I know that the majority of this picture did not exist and I added it. What if we just use the honor system, or is that too?
That's what we do.
Far out?
I
No.
think
But we need to decide what the rules are.
Right.
And
Right,
the honor
exactly.
take over.
Yeah.
What
So-
about the raw file and the finished product?
What do you mean?
where they would show both of them?
You would show your original photo and then your finished work, and if it's beyond the reality of the original photo, it would be up to the discretion of the judge to go, look, it's beautiful, but it's not reality of that photo.
I think we need at least some guidelines for the judges to go by.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the number one question. And then we would probably have to figure out if we we're going to do something like that, how we would weave that into the way we handle our actual competition. Okay, so what would we do? So for example, on digital night, would we be saying, okay, there's two images here. here's the original, here's the second one, and now judge. I mean, we'd have to figure out how to do that. But I agree with Steve. I think the first question is, where is the line drawn? And I think that's the challenge, right? Yeah.
Well,
Ken
that's,
and
I mean,
Tammy?
it goes way back to, and Brian will tell you this. I mean, it goes all the way back to when Brian was president, and he started rewriting the rules. And we had this almost exact same discussion. It didn't involve AI. It involved creative. It involved nature. It involved black and white. It involved everything on the rules. What are we going to allow? What we're not going to allow? And we lost a lot of members because of the discussions on those rules. We even lost Brian because of the discussion on those rules.
No, we didn't. Right.
No, that's not.
Yeah.
Well, we lost Brian because of his wife, I guess, but that's more than
What now?
Let Brian
Is
speak
your
for
wife
himself.
AI?
What now? What, Peter? I didn't hear you.
I said, is your wife AI?
Yeah.
Was not her initials, yeah.
You know what's scary is I saw a photo generated of a beautiful woman, and they said this was AI generated. And I mean, you couldn't tell. If I may put my 2 cents worth in, and
like
this
that.
is something that it's just something for y'all to think about, okay? From an outsider listening to what everybody said and what you've said, Peter, when there's a couple of facets of this. When you're doing removing an object, okay, that's going back to traditional old-fashioned photography.
Dodging and burning.
Dodging and burning, or just old Photoshop skills that, you know, I'm like Peter and John, I've been doing this so long. The question is, when you start doing the replacements, in other words, like replacing the trunk, or, you know, removing the guy, okay, is one thing. You're not altering. But when you're putting in a replacement, you're not using your pixels from your camera or one of your images. You're creating a new file, a new digital file from a stock image that was not taken from your camera. And that's something that, you know, the camera clubs have to hash out. You know, do you make it creative? Do you make it a separate category? And then, now I will say this, and I don't know if y'all were aware of this. There's a consortium of Nikon, Fuji, Sony, and Canon. They are working on a standard to be put in the metadata files to say that that file image was taken with that camera, so that you will know that that file was, that image or that file was not generated in AI. Now, when this is going to happen, I don't know. So from an outsider's looking in, you know, it's a real tough decision. The last example you gave, Peter, of just drawing in a sky and a seascape, that, you know, that opens up something totally, you know, that's all to me.
That's not photography. I don't think that's photography.
Right, that's nothing with photography. That's not even a painting. That's just telling the computer to generate something. But the thing and that really is when you start replacing, whether it's in nature, black and white, or pictorial, replacing it with your own image file, like a tree from your own file or a sky from your own file, that is your image. But replacing the sky or a tree from a stock photo that's not yours,
Yeah.
you know, to me, that's not your image.
Well, that's part of the
I agree with
rule
you, Brian.
from the New Braunfels Camera Club. They say in their rules that if you're going to put a texture or replace a sky or add something, you must have taken it.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
I like that.
I was just going to say that I talked to Victor about it, I don't know, about a month ago, and we had just a snippet of a conversation about it. And that's basically what he said. That's kind of my feeling, is that if this is going to be presented as your work, then it needs to be your work. That's my feeling of it. So
100%.
I don't necessarily have an issue with replacing things. But whatever you're doing, it needs to be your stuff. If you're taking other people's work, you know, stock photos, thousands of images that have basically been pulled off of computers and things like that, then that's not your work. And I kind of have an issue with that. If you're going to say this is your image and you're competing with it, then I'm going to struggle with that. Now, again, I think, you know, if we're going to say it's a creative category, great.
Sure.
Right, then that's clear. That's very open, but
There still has to be some rules for creative, I think. You still have to have guidelines for the judges.
you're right.
I agree. If I can
Not just
throw in a little
Well,
also.
the basic rule always was it had to be from a photograph,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
start
yeah.
from your
That'd be-
photograph.
or multiple photographs if you can combine them all.
Right, right.
Yeah. Well, that's I do a lot of compositing. And what I do is I composite, and especially if I start doing posters and graphics for menus and whatever, I composite my own pictures. I have, I got 200,000 pictures. I got all kinds to choose from. I've got over 2,000 skies to pick from, and textures. All this other kind. It's all my stuff. So if I'm replacing something, I'm replacing it with something I did. Now, if I go through and I start changing colors, or I want move something or change something that makes the picture better, and I use AI, that's a total different story. Replacing a sky, replacing textures, and that's why it's kind of hard to do buildings. Now you can create and make them bigger, like Peter showed with his outhouse, which was a great image to show because it was cut off. So he made it look more like a house. That you can do with AI, but is that, legal? I don't see why not.
Absolutely not. No, it's not.
And the whole thing of it is you don't want to do a whole city that way.
Well,
An outhouse. Yeah, I would do an outhouse.
Yeah, but Kevin, it sounds like you're saying that it shouldn't be done, right? Is that what I'm
Right. Yeah.
understanding? Kevin, is that what you're saying?
Shouldn't be done.
Yeah, see, I feel that way too, because it's not something you don't own those pixels. And that's how I feel about it. But that's just my opinion. You know, I feel like there need to be your pixels. Unless we're talking about, well, about anything really. I feel like if you're going to have anything on that image, particularly for competition, it needs to be your work. And when we're taking stuff from other people's, images, that's not your work. Just my opinion.
Of course, we haven't been doing that because we've been allowing people to replace the skies with other people's skies, add texture to their images that they didn't take a picture of.
Yeah.
Right. And plenty of people have pasted in different images that they got from clip art or from something else that wasn't theirs. I'm not saying it's right.
They're doing that in something other than creative?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, because
yeah.
you're
Oh,
allowed to
yeah.
do it in pictorial or black and white. That's
Yeah.
what the definition says.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, that was the problem because the definition says you can do it. It's
Yeah.
Yes.
should it be done? I don't know. And it's
I don't
just
know.
Hold up, wait up. Johnny, were you gonna say something? I thought you were gonna say
I
something.
was, yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
I was gonna say that it kind of building off of Denise's idea and some others, there's a category of, I would say, photo-based computer art, maybe, which is, I think, legitimate. It's based off of a photo, so it starts with a photo. But I think there's also a place for, in my mind, straight out of the camera. I mean, at maximum, some cropping, maybe some dodgy burning, but I don't know how you can, as a judge, how do you assess that? How do you assess how much change has been made to an image? You just have a JPEG, and I'm guessing without metadata, so you don't know, right, whether, like the landscape example that Peter showed a minute ago, and I remember a few months ago, it's been quite a few months now, we were doing night shots, right? It was night photography, and I forget who it was, but submitted a photo that placed that was a picture that had been artificially converted to night, and it was a daytime picture. You
Yeah.
know, so I mean, that's how do you compete? You know, as an amateur myself, how can I compete when I'm trying to get a legitimate camera shot of a night shot, and
right.
somebody's going to a Photoshop and creating a night shot from something in their portfolio. So yeah, maybe there needs to be a category of mostly unedited, you know, as opposed to adding a category for AI, you know, something like that.
That's just what I was trying to express, you know, that we have different categories so that it's kind of clear, but I do understand that there still needs to be, rules about how much you can edit. You know, I know personally, I have never used a lot of Photoshop. I don't have the product. I don't really care to use it, but I will admit that I have a lot of images that would really benefit if I had those tools, you know?
Here, yeah.
And personally, the work that the group produces to me is very beautiful. And I never
yeah.
even think about whether it's been, you know, fake or not. But that's why I thought maybe if we could have kind of a straight out of the camera group where, you know, you just changed the color, you cropped or did a little something versus, or even if you remove like one person, like Trish said, you know, it's your image. It's not, you didn't get clip art from somewhere. And then you have another category, and I'm just thinking, you know, for our print nights and everything, where these are very heavily edited images. You created the image initially, but maybe you added a nose to that fox, or you sharpened the eye of the fox. Example, you know.
Yeah,
Because
but
we had that with creative, right? But,
Right.
Yeah.
but we eliminated it.
Well, see, I think
wanna
the
ask
biggest
Kevin
problem
a
is you start
question if I
talking about categories. The only reason we have 3 categories now is because time frame. We cut out all the others because we don't have time to judge and comment on all those categories.
That's
So if we want
that's
to
on
add
print
one of
images.
these categories back in, which one are you going to get rid of? Okay, that's
Well,
something else you
I'm
can
saying
think of.
if we're gonna add in a
So if you want to
that's-
add a creative back end, you're going to take nature out.
if we're
That's
gonna
going to
add
stir a
another
whole bunch of stuff.
category,
So
let's limit it to the digital competition, so we don't have to worry about the people at Lions Field getting after us.
yeah.
We could have 4 or more categories on digital nights if we want.
Yeah.
On digital, yeah, we can. Yeah.
Yes.
We already go too long on digital nights.
So
Well-
we would be adding, right now, with digital, we have 3 categories all the way around now, right?
Right. Right.
So the only problem with adding something onto digital and just digital is people get very confused. We could try it. But one of the reasons we just did 3 kind of across the board was so that we weren't saying, oh, is this the month we have this category? Is this the month we have that category? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem we had when we were trying to do
Well-
creative and assignment. We
It needs-
alternated,
It needs to
and
be
that
well-
got to be very confusing as to what month is it.
Right.
So
needs
that's
to
when
be
we changed it from,
well-publicized.
you know, January to June and July to December.
Mhm.
Right.
It was all this and that, but still
I
had people
don't
getting
think,
confused.
I don't think it was well publicized, John. That was the problem. Not so much that we did things differently in different times and different, just it just wasn't publicized well enough.
Well, I, no, I think, I
Well,
don't-
this is a lot of people don't listen, is the other key. Okay.
I mean,
And
look,
when
the
you
biggest
try to
thing
explain something,
is that we
So-
used to have categories that no one was interested in. When we had photojournalism, people weren't interested in shooting photojournalism. A few people were, but other
but not
people were
enough to
putting
make
in
a
pictures
competition.
of
Yeah.
dogs. We had a creative category. Some of the members were really interested in doing the creative categories. Other ones felt really left behind.
Yeah.
Right? I like the way that we went to 3 categories just to make it simpler. Right? And I do think that there needs to be some guardrails put on this. I'm not exactly sure how you do it, but from what I'm hearing from the group, some of these things should be allowed. I mean, I can take a person out of a picture using content aware or the
Yeah.
eraser
Right,
tool or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But to put in, you know, to put in a squirrel on a tree that's not my picture, maybe that shouldn't be allowed.
All right.
What if we made a to start things off, I'm throwing it out here, that we don't allow generative AI to be used?
You're already using it.
Well,
You
no,
use it.
no. I'm specifically talking about the
Generative.
kind that's to replace things,
Yeah.
something
Generative.
that's not yours,
Uh-huh.
like what he was showing in Photoshop. And I know there's a bunch of other generative AI equivalent programs out there that you could use. But it sounds to me like that's a very simple starting rule anyway.
Well, I mean, would we allow you to focus stack,
Uh,
for example?
I'd say as long as it's your photographs,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
as long as it's your own
Does-
photographs.
Does that use the generate command? I mean, I noticed everything you did, you had to click the word generate.
I'm
Right.
sorry, I can't understand you, Johnny. Say that again.
I said you have to click the word generate in Photoshop in order to use what
Right.
I think Donald's talking about, generative AI,
Mhm.
as opposed
Right.
to what's available, say, in other photo editing softwares where you do maybe a patch over something, a Band-Aid tool, something like that. But when you circle an area and you say generate, you are doing AI. You're doing something beyond.
Well, there's
Yeah.
lots of things that are, we
That's
have
what
to be
I'm
careful. We have
asking.
to
I
be,
don't know if that's true.
There's
we have to be careful.
AI and then there's generative AI. Because Peter's,
Yeah.
if you do, what's that, where you click on something and say maximize, what is it, Peter?
Oh, the content aware, Phil?
Content aware.
Or just when you want it to just do its best to just and make it look better. I forget what the word is.
Enhance.
Enhance. Yeah, when you click
Enhance,
it,
yeah.
it's using AI. That's
Mhm.
fairly
Yeah.
simple. and
Yeah.
does not add anything. Whereas generative AI can
Right.
add.
Yeah. I
I
think
think
that's
the
the
word we're
difference.
looking for is generative AI versus AI.
Well, I was just saying from the point of view of setting
Ernie,
one
you'll get your
guideline
chance.
that we could start with. Photoshop defines generative AI, okay? So we could say you can't use that, period.
It's not really true. There are lots of other things, spot removal tool, content
That's what I
aware,
was-
that do exactly the same thing that this thing
Spot
does.
No, they don't do the same as generative AI. They
Layers.
don't put a dog's nose in place of a fox's nose or, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Now, I agree there's probably other ways you could do that. But I'm saying if you're going to do that, you got to do it with your own photographs. And you cannot, I'm just saying, make a simple requirement to start out with, because we could argue endlessly about, what specific guidelines. I'm saying Photoshop's already defined generative AI. So we can say, let's do that. Let's not allow that particular one or anything closely resembling that. you know, meaning in another program.
I would agree
Kevin
with that.
does a lot of outdoor photography. Ask him what would occur with outdoor photography.
Right.
Kevin,
You mean nature photography?
he does a lot of outdoor photography.
Yes.
And what effect AI would have on outdoor photography.
Well, it has a big thing to do with outdoor photography, depending on what you're taking in outdoors. Okay, it is my big question about AI is, you're going to say, don't do this, don't do that. How are you going to know that somebody did it to begin with?
Well, it's,
AI
That's
is
my
so
question.
good that
Yeah.
AI is so good, it looks perfect
Yes.
every time. And how do you
Yes.
gonna know that it's not perfect and
Well,
it's not what's originally taken?
well, it's like anything, John. We have to trust that when we place a rule out there, outside
Right.
of the office,
Right.
that the photographer is honest about that, obviously.
Exactly.
But if we
Well, the
don't
whole,
set
I
any,
know, and
but if we don't set any boundaries at all, okay,
you don't
then-
get my point. My point is you have to trust the person presenting the picture.
sure.
Yes.
Okay. And whether they did it or not, I can't say that they did it. I can't say that they didn't do it. Unless I have the raw file.
Yeah.
That's the only way I know. And if you go and you
Yeah.
go to some of the professional photo contests, I don't know how many of you do it. PPA is starting to do it. You have to send them your raw file.
That's right.
Ah,
Yeah.
Okay. Along with your image that you're going to submit. So they can say, yes, this is your image and this is what you did to it by adjusting the color, the balance, whatever. And that's all you did based on your metadata. And that's what they want, is your metadata.
Yeah.
To know that this is what you did.
That's
What
exactly.
Brian was saying is what the manufacturers are starting to do is create it and have it built into the cameras, into the metadata. And you'd be able to look at the metadata to see what was done and what wasn't done. And that's to do in line. I mean, Fuji has got so many different things that you can do in your cameras now. They're like filters. We talked about it
They
today.
all do. They all do.
That
Yeah.
changes the picture that you just took a picture of. I did it on some of my parts today. I changed and I switched to different film. I went to a
Pretty much
film.
anything in the
So,
last 10 years is going
that
to
changed
have
it.
built-in filters. They're already. I like the idea, but of the camera is going to record the information in the metadata, but
Yeah.
it's not going to help those of us with older cameras.
Well,
That's
realistically, the reason that they're going to the metadata is for people who do sports and news to make sure
Professional
that
work.
image is true to what the image is. When you're getting artistic, you know, how much do you really care one way or another? Right.
Doesn't matter.
I want to throw
That
something else
yeah,
out.
that always brings up the discussion, is it photograph or is it art?
Right.
When
And the other
talking
thing
about
is,
AI,
you know, you talk about having a picture out of camera. You know, if somebody takes a regular raw image and another person takes it with their iPhone, and the iPhone it enhances the image and makes it terrific, and your raw image looks flat and uninteresting and stuff. Is that a fair comparison? I don't know, you know.
Says you're starting.
Oh, no, it's not, because a raw image is basically raw. If you want your camera to produce something that's presentable, you want to do JPEGs. Okay. Or you're going to do the, whatever the Adobe one is. Okay. You're going to produce those.
Well, I don't
That's
think
what you're gonna
anybody's
show,
asking
and
us to do
that's not a
out of
raw
camera
file.
images for competition. I mean, we can crop and we can sharpen and we can
No, I agree with that.
enhance
Yeah.
the colors, and I think the definitions that we already have are pretty good. I think they need to be narrowed down just a little bit to exclude specific manipulations.
I want to mention something that, I mean, this whole discussion about AI is somewhat software dependent, right? Not all software has AI tools in the sense that Photoshop does. And Denise pointed out, and I'm not a Photoshop user either. If you don't have Photoshop, you don't have access to those tools. So it gets back to how do you compete in a group that has multiple Photoshop users?
I use Lightroom. Lightroom has the same damn tools.
Same, but same
Okay.
company. It's
Same
still
thing.
Adobe.
They're
I
just
have
called something
Affinity
different.
Pro by Serif, which is not Photoshop, not Adobe at all. It's not an Adobe
You
product.
just can't do
I
layers.
could use Topaz. I could use any number of tools.
Yeah.
Right.
But they don't necessarily have the AI tools in Photoshop.
Let's
And
remember
Lightroom
your
has.
camera has AI tools built in.
Oh, absolutely.
It's why I
Sure.
was able to go to a rodeo and take, 25 pictures and have them all be tack sharp, not because my skills are so good, focusing on each individual thing,
Yes.
but because the
Yes.
camera could do it for me. Now, if you don't
Yes.
have that camera, if you're shooting an old time film camera, it's the luck of the draw
Manual
whether you're going to be able
focus.
to capture that guy.
Sure.
Right.
Mhm.
So, we're all at a disadvantage. I keep looking back at the National Geographic photographers. And I think when I was a film photographer, and you guys have heard me say this before, I was a lousy photographer. I could never get anything that looked anything like, I don't know how they got those images. Jesus, I would shoot hundreds of photographs and just go, no, 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 they were truly craftsmen to come up. So I think if somebody wants to have an unedited picture and they want to be able to compete with the new technology, you got to be as good as those National Geographic photographers, because we can all kind of just do it with a click of the button. And I don't just mean AI, I mean all the other tools that we use. It's a weird situation. Robert?
Yeah. Okay. I've been in the club for quite a few years, but one big thing that is that I do use Lightroom. I'm not a Photoshop guy per se. And 99.9% of my photography is more like traditional darkroom techniques, the simple stuff, dodge and burn, crop, stuff like that. Now, it comes down after learning, take a better photograph out of your camera and tweak it. I call it tweaking, meaning what I just said. So, like I said, 99.9% of my images that I compete with are not heavily edited at all. So there is a place, but the thing is that composition, that photo, first off, has to be exposed maybe or done correctly. You can change your composition a little, but that basic raw image or whatever you shoot with file has to have some merit, and you can tweak it. So I know some of these guys that do a lot more Photoshop work than I do. Love the work, but I don't have those skills, nor do I try to enhance those skills of mine by choice, because I don't want to sit too long behind a computer. I want to have fun and shoot. So that photograph has to have some substance to it. And you get better as you shoot more, and more. Because I mean, I've progressed, but it's not all because of the software.
Well, and Robert, I would say you are a perfect example of what we're talking about, because
Mhm.
your photos, unedited, are competing with everybody else's photos and a lot of times winning,
Yeah.
right?
And
They do have
yeah,
all the things that you're talking about.
yeah, and it's shooting, shoot,
Mhm.
shoot. You get better. You see things differently, but it's got to be a consistency where you want to improve that. Now, I want to improve that, but not with a lot of enhancements on, with the software. I got nothing against it, but yes, I agree. There is a limit to where kids should be allowed in order to compete, and this is a learning club. So I get it, being the guy that doesn't do a lot of editing. I want to learn. And how do you learn? Okay, well, listen to these guys. What am I doing? What is he doing? Okay, I'm hearing a lot of, now it's a lot of software. And yes, all AI generated stuff, it's not your image. I agree with everybody. If it's not your image, it's not your pixels, it shouldn't be allowed. I mean, I get the little tweaks here and there. I'm not against anything like that. That's my 2 cents, you know.
I think it boils down mostly to what software are you using. I mean, people who use DxO or use On1 or Photoshop and Lightroom or one or the other of those, or any of the other software that's out there to generate. I mean, I got 4 different programs on my computer. I can generate 2, but right now I only use Lightroom because Peter made me do that. But you know, the whole thing of it is I look at it this way: is I did not start shooting digital till 2006. I shot film for over 50 years. And it's learning digital is easy. You just got to practice it because you can go out there. And what I have done is when I went, my first trip with a digital camera was to Alaska. I shot over 5,000 pictures in Alaska. That's a lot of pictures to look at and edit when you get home. Now I'm down to, I just spent a month in Colorado at Grand Tetons and Yellowstone. I didn't even shoot 2,000 pictures. I'm getting to the point where I pick and choose what I want to take a picture of. I don't sit there and rapid fire anymore. Oh, I did today. Of course, I was doing 14 frames a second and, shooting birds. But you have to pick and choose what you want to do. And if you want it to be good and you want it to be good right out of your camera, you need to know how to use your camera to get the picture to come right out of your camera. And it's not, I mean, we used to have we still have a member. He doesn't show up very much anymore. That's Tim. And that was all he always preached. Is all his images came right out of his camera. That's how they were. He'd shoot JPEG, and that's what he would submit was a JPEG image. He didn't shoot RAW. He didn't edit his pictures. And it's but some of his pictures would have been a lot better if they'd been edited.
Yeah, that's what.
I mean, the whole thing with pictures is you got to learn how to crop, learn how to frame your picture, learn how to frame your subject. And that's something that I have learned over the years of just by going out and shooting. Framing the picture and cropping the picture and getting the right composition is key to whether you have to move something or add something. I basically use all my stuff nowadays for cleaning up pictures. I go, if you see me take a picture at the beach, I'm forever taking trash off the beach. And I just have sand. Now I use AI to do that. It's called content aware, or erase. You got erase as content aware. What's that other one that they got? That the clone stamp is content aware. This is all stuff we normally use all the time. That is AI, whether you know it or not. That's why AI has been around for years.
Yeah, and I think there's, for some people, there's a little confusion about that term AI. The truth is AI is everywhere. We have to be careful how we're using that term. I think the question is what level, what type. The fact is we are already using AI and we're having no problem with it. Okay. Now the question is, because it has advanced to a level where we can literally type in a word and create something for ourselves, it's come to a place where we have to decide, is this still photography? Okay. Is this still what we want to allow in our competition? I think there's places for AI generated stuff in the world. I think there's some beautiful art created with it. The question is, in our club, in our competitions particularly, if we're going to judge a photographer on their work, where do we draw the line and still call it their work? That's the question before us. And so we're really back to square one. How much of generative are we happy with allowing in competition?
Yeah, That's the tough question, isn't it? Because, you know, you can use generative AI to take out, like John was saying, rocks or pebbles. I can erase sunspots.
Mhm.
I can use it to do all the things that I could do using other tools.
Right.
Only kind of my point in the beginning was that it's easier, which makes anyone in this group be able to do what we worked at for years to be able to do with just as quickly as I was able to do this. It's kind of the great equalizer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I think most people aren't having a problem with that, Peter. I think we're if at least this is what I'm getting listening to everybody, is that there's some discomfort among a number of us with, I want you to add this thing that is not something I created, that I captured.
It's a
And
totally different
that's
thing.
where we have to figure things out.
That's
I
a
don't
totally
think-
different thing.
Yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
think people are having a problem with remove this rock, whether they've done it with content fill, with the way you showed tonight with the generate. I think people aren't having a problem with that. Yeah, the issue is, am I putting parts in here that I didn't actually capture at some level, you know? So we have to
That-
decide.
That should be the dividing line, in my opinion, is the generative. Use your own pixels to fix anything, to repeat anything, to dodge, to burn. Use your own, originate everything from yourself and not from anywhere else. Now, I would be absolutist about that. That's my opinion. Is say absolutely no generative AI using somebody else's creation, somebody else's pixels.
Yeah, well, and to go along with your point there, Shimon, if you look at our description, one of the things in our categories, we've talked about not photographing somebody else's art. Now, one of the reasons given there is copyright, okay? But we're kind of using somebody else's art. I mean, somebody else photographed those images. Somebody else created those pieces that we're putting in our images. And I feel like we're kind of crossing that line there when we're doing that. And if we're going to say we don't want you taking pictures of somebody else's stuff, and that being, you know, your image, well then, you know, where are we drawing that line? We're going to have to be clear about that. So do we have any preliminary thoughts as a whole? I mean, it sounds like, and I could be wrong here, so I want you to speak up if I'm summarizing this wrong. It sounds like the majority of people are saying they are concerned about having generative AI, meaning AI creating parts that they didn't capture.
Yeah.
Am I right in that summary?
I think so.
How about thumbs up if that's correct, or what you think, or thumbs down if it's not what you think?
No, I think
I have
that's
an
true.
idea.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so I think most of us feel like we want to stick with using these tools in Photoshop and by limiting them to like what they were really before you could generate stuff. Okay, so you're not going to be able to put in, you know, somebody else's car, a boat, a different nose, whatever. Essentially, you're going to have to present your pixels. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the whole idea is you what you cannot do is you cannot use the cloud to generate a picture.
Oh, I think that's a
Go
good
up to the cloud and draw something down and add it to an image. I can fix the image with what I have on my computer already by adding stuff from one of my images. But that how AI works in generative AI is it goes up to the cloud.
Right.
It goes through millions of pictures and comes up with something that looks similar to what, I mean, Peter said, it just picks out something that looks what it wants, and it gives you three different options.
Right.
I mean, I've gone through and I've done generative fill as many as 12 times before I finally got something I didn't like, and I used one of my own and did it my way.
But one thing to just clarify, I'm not disagreeing with what anybody says. This is not anybody's image. When I drew the trunk from the elephant, that trunk doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. That is a totally unique trunk made up for me by AI. And it's not, you could look through everybody's photograph, you know, the millions of photographs, and you will never find a trunk that looks just like that.
That's
No, it
true.
makes a composite of trunks is what it does.
Yeah, exactly. What it's done is that AI has created that basically from its database of
Yeah.
1,000 other images. It
Yeah.
is creating it uniquely, but it's based on 1,000 other images that do exist.
Right.
So I think the biggest point about it is it's not something you created. It's not your pixels.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, all right.
Mm.
So perhaps what we want to do is get put out there that this is kind of where we stand. Are we ready to say that we want to place on our guidelines that
Yes.
clearly this is what we want to do? Can I get
think so.
everybody thumbs up or a thumbs down if we're
Nope, so you gotta do thumbs up.
okay?
Okay,
All right,
well,
you're ready to vote.
so
Okay.
Tricia, are you going to write something down and let us all kind of look at it and see
Yeah,
if
I
it
think yes, exactly. Yeah.
means what we
Okay,
think
I
it
just
means?
didn't even know if I was in a place where it was time to do that. That's exactly. Okay, so it's raining tomorrow. It might be a good time to do it. Okay, so I need to
No, it's
write
not
that-
going to rain tomorrow.
It's
All the
Saturday.
rain, all the rain's going around us, going south of us.
Ah,
Rain's not coming in tomorrow.
That's pull the
the
puzzle
If it
out.
does, it's going to be small.
Okay, write up AI details for review. Okay. All right. All right. I will write something up. And I'll get that to the board and we'll kind of make sure we've got that defined. And we'll get that out and about as soon as it's correct.
Yep.
Okay, and then
I
will
think
also-
Simone knows how to send out a one of those questionnaire kind of things. Can
Do
you
we
do
want to
that?
send a questionnaire? Are we sending a questionnaire? I thought I was writing up. what
No,
we-
you write it up and then you say, you know, yes or no, or do you
No.
have any comments?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I can,
All
if you want me
You
to do
could
something
do a
like that, we
poll
can do
on
that.
Facebook.
Do an
and-
online survey.
And
And you can do
you
a
guys that
Google
have
survey.
used a generative AI a lot, be sure that the wording of this, you know.
Yeah,
makes
that's what I was
sense.
talking about. I
'Cause
was
I
thinking
don't
about the
know much
wording,
about
setting up the wording, sending it out to the board to make sure that that's really what we want to work with, and then we can,
Then send it out, right?
yeah. Okay. All right, that sounds correct. Now, we could also talk, and it doesn't have to be tonight, I know it's already pretty late. But it sounds like because of this, we may want to on digital night add a creative category. Or
Yeah, and
once every
just let
6
people
months,
show off.
have a creative competition, because I think people want that outlet.
Yeah.
Well, I think when we originally went back to the 3 categories,
Yeah, it was
we
time.
decided if you want to do a creative image, you can enter it into pictorial.
Victoria.
Yes.
Okay. And or monochrome actually. And
Well,
that
but
you
that-
can do it. So that
Those
means
are unfair.
but
And
we
also-
I know, but that means we can allow
goodness.
AI in
Right, but
the
you're,
pictorial and
you're
monochrome
competing
category.
completely in a different sense.
Well,
And
here's the
also
thing, I
your
hear what Tammy's
pictorial and other ones say you have to portray reality.
Oh, well, and not, yeah, exactly. They do say they have to portray reality. That's the first thing. Secondly, if it's gonna be creative, if we're gonna put that in pictorial, because pictorial is pretty wide open. It is, by definition, it is. If you look at the definition, if somebody's going to use AI in pictorial, that should be identified.
Well,
Because
if you
maybe
remember,
their
if you
idea
remember,
of- you know, because if it's gonna be creative just because it has generative AI in it, okay?
Yeah.
But it looks realistic. Your judge isn't gonna know that, okay? And so that's where I think where Tammy's coming from. She's saying it doesn't seem very fair that a judge thinks they're looking at something the photographer created in the camera essentially when it's not. So we're gonna have to figure that out because creative.
we said, I mean, when we decided to do all this, we said we were going to change the rules, and nobody has ever redone the rules.
Not
And
since Brian.
That was no, I know Brian was the last person that ever tried to do.
And he worked on it for
Blame it on Brian.
Brian for a
his
year.
whole 2 years as president.
We had a couple of cantankerous
How do you
members.
think I lost all my hair?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, we're gonna have to figure that out. I think even if it's, they have to tag it differently so that when the judges see it, they know. So that when they, we're gonna have to come up with some system. I don't have any problem with those images being in pictorial because it is wide open. But judges have got to know. That's
And
just
that's one of the
fair.
keys as a judge.
Huh?
And I will say it right here, like we talked today, it needs to be in the title.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
The only way a judge is going to know anything that about your image that you're trying to portray, and we talked about, and I think I can't remember whose picture it was, Johnny's picture about the mask we talked about, right? That, is the fact that there was no context to it. I didn't know that, I did not know it was an antique, or I did not know it was a Mayan or whatever. It doesn't matter, but it needs to be in the title.
I noticed that the rules, by the way, just an aside, it doesn't say three-dimensional objects. It talks about paintings and drawings.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
It means
But
three-dimensional. It means artwork, period.
And that's what we didn't consider
But it doesn't
that.
say that.
We didn't consider
painting or drawing specifically.
We talked about
Actually,
it, but we didn't consider it. What we talked about was the fact there was no context to it. We didn't know what we were looking at besides a mask. What kind of mask?
Well,
but
and
if it's in a museum, it's antique. Make it an antique. Say that in the title. And that includes anything creative. Say it in the title.
What I'm hearing is that
Hi,
the
Jack.
title should say AI generated blah, 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 or so if there's going to be AI generated stuff, that needs to be identified in the title. Am I hearing that?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
just as another way of doing it, I really like having the 3 categories. And I really don't think it's fair to have AI generated
designations,
images in with other pictorial images. I would be more in favor of every once in a while having an open category for pictorial.
That's kind of what I was thinking, is that
Right.
if we did twice a year or whatever, we just had an open category that I think.
Yeah, we talked about doing that with
agree.
cell phone photography too.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. That we
In
could-
addition, an open category in addition to the 3, or
No.
instead?
Replacing one of them.
We replace one of them once in a while.
Okay, and we have to make the rules about that. If we're talking about how this adds up for end of year awards, we can remember to keep that in mind when we change these categories around.
No,
Right.
but you look at it differently. If we change it around, it still counts as whatever category got taken out. So if you take out nature and you add some open category, that still counts as nature. So the points go towards nature. It's not going to be a separate category because that makes it even more confusing. I mean, when we go into end-of-year judging, okay, it's kind of hard to determine. And I talked to both clubs that did all our judging. I don't know how they're going to do our judging this year. That when they go down there and they look at it, they get all these different categories and all the different, especially with the assignment. They had the hardest time judging assignment because they had 6 different assignments that they had to judge against for each category, for each picture. Did it meet that requirement? Did it meet this requirement? They got confused. They just kind of went through and just started picking them. Which one's the better picture? They didn't compare it against assignments and stuff.
Well, I would
So
think,
it's harder to do.
I think, Steve, your point about the end of the year, I think we just add another award. So if we have an open category twice a year, we just
Right.
add that category to awards.
As
I
a
don't
fourth-
think we
as
go
a
in
fourth.
and cross out nature and then put it in nature because it's clearly not nature.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and particularly if we send it off to another club, they're just going to lose their mind with that. So
What I
think
would
we just
propose,
make it
if we
another
want to
category.
do that kind of thing, make it a 4th category and make it have nothing to do with end of year awards. Just kind of like a
freebie.
Just something
display
fun.
demonstration category.
Okay, so Well. I
We'll
don't,
put that
yeah,
in,
I
put that in the rules
I
once you
kinda
kind of determine what the rules are gonna be.
kind of like it being in the end of the year. I don't know why it couldn't be.
Yeah, the other thing we could just do is just take 2 months, one digital and one print, and have it be an open pictorial, and everybody knows that everything goes. I think what I'm hearing from the whole rest of the group, though, is that you can't just generate a duck or a sailboat that's
Yeah.
not yours and put it in there. But you can
Yeah.
erase things and you can alter things and,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard too.
Okay, so I want to make sure I've got this. I'm gonna write up some details, about AI and what we've decided. And send that to the board for review, kind of what we've decided. The board will review that and then we'll get that out once we have that right. And I'll get that to Shimon and we'll get it sent out. I'm going to redefine pictorial, again, send that to the board so we can make sure that the no AI is in there essentially, and that creative, we want to create a creative category or an open category twice a
Open
year. Am I
pictorial.
understanding that? Open.
Twice a
About
year, once.
Quarterly,
Yeah,
As a fourth category.
yeah, but
And we'll
quarterly,
just do it
not twice a year.
one time print, one time digital, just for fun.
And
for
just do
kicks.
it on digital nights, camping competitions,
Yeah, just for
we don't have
kicks.
to worry
And-
about
and- and
Lions Club
So we
people.
will no longer, it sounds like, be having pictorial open to include that creative stuff because it creates some problems with the AI, right? Am I
Right.
understanding that?
That's why
yeah,
I
you
say
can go have a
instead of doing
creative
it
one and
twice
say
a
who
year,
can come up
do
with
it
the neatest
quarterly.
AI
There's too
photo.
many people talking at once. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Instead, if we're gonna do that, keep the creative out of pictorial. Let's do the open quarterly so you can get more pictures in to evaluate.
Well, I think what we decided, Ernie, was that we would just do an open creative, kind of an open thing twice a year. One
Yeah.
print month, one
But
digital.
twice a year, it gives you what? 2 pictures,
Yeah,
whereas quarterly gives you 4 pictures.
yeah.
It does.
But the members don't even know whether they want to do this. I hear
Yes.
lots of people saying, I'm not interested in
Right.
in
In an open
AI
category.
technology,
In an
right?
open category.
That's why I think it should not
Oh,
count
no,
awards.
I think we're interested. I'm not interested in generating AI myself, but I am interested in seeing what other people do with
Mhm.
their photos using the
Me
tools.
too.
Ooh,
Me
I
too.
think it's fascinating, and I think it's a great expression of art. I
And you
just think
don't
it needs
even
to
have to
be
use
a separate.
If you don't want to, you can
Judgment.
still submit it, but you don't have to use AI.
Well, you know what? It looks like Patricia is going to give us a little, like a synopsis of what we talked about tonight.
Mhm.
And maybe on that little form, we can kind of put a little, if we have an idea or an opinion, maybe that's an opportunity to put that down so that then, she can massage that or else bring it back to the group when we meet either on education night or in person.
Or for
We can
coffee
talk about it again.
and cameras.
Yeah, because I think that I think people want to see it. The question is, do we have enough people interested in participating in that to do it 4 times a year as opposed to 2?
I think
That's
twice.
the
We'd start with twice.
That's kind of how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start with
Okay, I
twice,
like that.
and
And
if we just find people really love it, then I
Category
think
twice a year.
we can increase it. Okay.
Agreed.
The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clarify the definitions. I'll go under pictorial right now. When we talk about art there, it says print images or paintings. We have applied that broadly. So if someone takes a picture of someone's art, we want to broaden that description of what art is. In the current description that we have says prints or paintings, and we talk about copyright. I think what we have practiced is that we want more than just whatever it is. of any kind of art. And so if that's how we're gonna practice it, we want to define that in our category a little better. So I will do that. And I think those are the 3 things that I've got. Is that correct?
Yep.
Anything I forgot?
We have included murals in that art thing as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You
Say
can't
that
just
again.
take a,
Murals as well as drawings and paintings.
Right, murals, yeah, and that's another one's come up,
I don't know if
murals,
you
drawings.
want to add that
Mostly because
word in there.
the,
just to
the
make
the
sure
point
it's-
is it's somebody else's art and there are copyright issues. So, you know, they have to be a part of a bigger context.
Yes.
So I will clarify that definition because,
It's kind of like the one last month that had the picture of the painting, but it was hanging in a museum and it showed people standing in front of it. So
yeah, that's
yes,
different. Yeah,
that's
gonna be
allowed.
different. So there's a context that isn't just the art.
Context.
Okay, all right. Anything else that I need to do tomorrow?
no, that's enough.
Somebody tell me to do a puzzle tomorrow. I need permission.
Well, Simone got me hooked on these Quirtles and Octurtles and
Aren't they great?
holy mackerel.
I think
On what?
Johnny does Wordle every day, don't you, Johnny?
Oh, yes.
Well, I do a Wordle, but there's also now the what
Yeah, Wordle's
Octurtle.
like
There's
4.
4.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
8. There's an 8 one with 8.
Yeah.
It's
I
amazing.
showed one of my nieces Wordle. This is like 4 months ago. And I ran into their mother just this past week. And they said all the kids, all of her, she has 6 kids, and they are now all Wordle fanatics. I said, oh my gosh, what did I start?
You can beat each other every day or who's fastest, right?
Yes, they have family competitions.
I
It's
can
a
see, I can
wonderful
see
thing.
that.
Is that like an app through Google Play or something or whatever?
Wordle.
It's
Wordle.
New York Times.
New
New
York
York Times
Times.
Wordle. And it's
Letter word.
an app. You have to actually go to the New York Times every day. I wish it was an app. I would like that. Or it would just
Well, you
pop
can-
up.
Wordle is an
You
app.
can just download the game.
Just download it.
Has nothing to do with
Alright.
New York Times. It's just
Different from what
Wordle.
It's in
I
the
haven't
App
looked
Store.
into it for a while, so.
I have it on
They
my
probably
phone. I
don't-
don't understand it, but I have it.
Yeah.
And I just want to say
Thanks,
one more
Johnny.
thing.
What?
We kind of had a last minute, let's go birding today. It was such a good time. And I just want you guys to know, if you have an idea, you want to just get up and go, please let me know. I'll zip out an email, or I don't have everybody's phone number in my phone, and I should do that so that I can text everybody. That's what I need to do, because I don't have everybody where I can text them. And so I try when I text is to go, okay, who do I remember I have on my phone, and I send that out. But please, if you want to do anything like that, it doesn't have to be a lot of planning. It doesn't have to be anything particularly complicated. We literally got in the car, drove down to Bronig Lake this morning. That's how simple it was. We planned it yesterday. So anybody wants to, daytime or nighttime, street shooting, nature shooting, whatever, please feel free to do that.
And if
I
you don't
just
want
love it.
100,000 texts flowing across your phone, do not give your phone number to Trish.
I will text
She
you.
sends out more texts than any person I've ever known.
But like I said, for the last 2 months, that's pretty much all the shooting I've done is,
But she sends them out to 15 or 20 people. And then every time somebody
and
answers,
everybody responds. Yes, you'll get a lot of them back.
I looked at my phone today. Between her and Robert, we sat down and took a break at the and before we left. And I looked at my phone. I had 15 texts.
Yeah.
Between Robert and Trish.
I'll have to say, Trish, I didn't participate. I don't care. You can send me all the texts you want. I think they're interesting.
Yay.
If I don't want to read them, I won't read them. I don't need to make.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's the
But
mute button
anyway,
right
like I
there.
said,
You just hit
that's the
mute.
only shooting I've gotten done for the last couple of months. And so I appreciate anybody wanting to get out and shoot.
Yeah.
And
It was a lot of fun. It
You
was.
didn't invite me. I'll be all over you for that too. Right, Robert?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I haven't
okay,
touched
I
my
really
camera since
appreciate
October.
those opportunities.
The only pictures I've taken since October is with my phone.
Yeah.
And I had my camera out today for the first time. And let me tell you, it's like a whole new toy trying to figure out how did you do this and how did you do
Denise.
that.
Good
And
night.
getting used to carrying
Thanks, Denise.
around 15 pounds of lens. Okay. See
You
you later,
wanna say-
girl. But no, we
Bye.
had fun.
Good night, Denise. Enjoy having you.
All right, let's see, I'm actually
Go on,
recording.
Ernie. Good
I'm
night,
gonna
Ernie.
stop this recording.
Yeah, stop the recording. Yeah,
Excuse me.
okay.